Hello. Hello and welcome to this video. This is the third video on objects on JavaScript. We will have probably 3-4 videos more on objects. So in this video, we will talk about assignment on properties and deletion of properties. So the general rule of property assignment is that the objects in prototype chain are not modified. So if you don't understand this, I'll request you to go and watch the earlier videos in the playlist so that it is clear that what is the prototype chain. So there are exceptions to this rule that objects in prototype chain is not modified. Okay. And there are exceptions to the fact that assignment will be allowed. So one of the constraints is that suppose the object in question is object O, which has inherited from some object. And if O inherits a read-only property named X, then the assignment is not allowed. If assignment is allowed, however, it always creates or sets a property in the original object and never modifies objects in the prototype chain. So the general rule is that suppose we have a base object, let's call it B, and you have an object which inherited from object B, let's call it object D. So in general, if you modify the properties of object D, whether inherited or not, it will modify the object D, and object B will be unmodified, it will remain unchanged. So another example is we have a circle which has property R, that is radius of 1. Then we create another object C from this object, and we create two more properties X and Y for object C, and then we modify C dot R. So this modification will be on object C, on object C, not on the object circle. The prototype will remain unmodified. If you try to see what is the value of R of object circle, it will be 1, not 2. Now there is one exception to this. Another exception is to this rule is that suppose O inherits a property X again, and that property is an accessor property with a setter method. And when you want to modify that property X, the setter method is called rather than creating a new property X in O. However, the setter method is called on the object O, not on the prototype object that defines the property. Okay, so we will see this actual code for this later. So the rule is that if there is a property and there is a setter method for that particular property, then if you call this on an object, then the property won't be directly modified, rather the setter function will be called or method will be called. So again, the prototype chain will remain unmodified. So our original rule holds true that in general prototype chain remains unmodified. Now we look at the cases when we access properties and the property is either undefined or null. So suppose our book object from this, okay, this was our book object. Okay, now in the book object there is no property called subtitle. So if you want to access it, it will give you undefined property does not exist. And if you further invoke any other property on that, then it will be a type error and the property length of undefined. And in non-strict mode, it will be silent. But in general, we will not talk about non-strict mode. We assume that all code is under strict mode. I have not yet discussed what is strict mode in JavaScript, but I will discuss this in next video. That what is strict mode. So this kind of code is dangerous in JavaScript. A verbose method would be to check if the book object exists. Then you check whether the author property is defined or not, and then you invoke the surname property. The shorthand for this is this and notation. So in this case also it will test whether book is null or undefined. If it is null or undefined, it will fail here and the short circuiting will take place. Then it checks for author and finally for surname. The ES6 defines a shorthand for this. You can mark question mark, these are optionals, and then you can get the surname. Now there are three rules for setting a property. So if O has an own property P that is read only, it is not possible to set read only properties. O has an inherited property P that is read only, it is not possible to hide an inherited read only property with an own property of the same name. That is, suppose the object in prototype chain, that is the parent object, has a property P that is read only, then we cannot create an property P on O. And if you want to set O dot P is equal to something, it will fail. This is what happened, for example, here. Okay. Here, object O1 has property X and we create O2 dot X. Okay. So if X would have been read only, you can't say O2 dot X is equal to 100. If O does not have a known property P, O does not inherit a property P with the setter method, and O's extensible attribute is false. Since P does not already exist in O, and if there is no setter method to call, then P must be added to O. But if O is not extensible, then no new properties can be defined on it. So these are three rules when you create properties. Now we will talk about delete property. The deletion of a property happens through delete operator. When you call delete operator on a property of an object, that property is deleted. It returns true if the operation is possible and false if it is not. If the property to be deleted does not exist, then the operation is considered successful and delete returns true. I will read this again because it is important. If the property to be deleted it does not exist, then the operation is considered successful and delete returns true. The delete operator does not affect properties in the prototype chain. That is, the parent object properties cannot be deleted by delete operator. It only operates on own properties of the object. So we have an object O1 with property X. We call delete on O dot X, and then O1 dot X becomes undefined. If you try to delete it again, it will return true, but the property X does not exist. Now suppose we create a property P1 from O1, then P1 dot Y is equal to true. And we delete P1 dot X, it returns true. Delete does not affect prototype chain. Okay. P1 dot X, if you want to see here in this case, then P1 dot X would be this value of X. Okay, you can assume that this is not the case, or assume these are commented out. Okay. Now, if you delete P1 dot Y, then it returns to Y is successfully deleted, and P1 dot Y becomes undefined. There are certain more conditions on what can be deleted or what cannot be deleted. So if a property is non-configurable, then delete cannot delete those properties. All properties created by simple assignments or object.define property are configurable unless you explicitly make them non-configurable. Properties created via var, let, and const in the global scope are non-configurable. Some host objects may also have non-configurable properties. If you try to delete a non-configurable property, delete returns false and the property is not deleted. In strict mode, attempting to delete a non-configurable property throws an error. Now consider an object O with value x1. So O has its own property x and it inherits property toString. Now if you want to delete toString, then it returns true, it does not affect the prototype chain. That is, the object whose own property is toString is not affected here. In essence, the toString deletion is not possible. And if you invoke toString or no, it will work because toString is still inherited. So I will stop the video here, and I hope that you are finding the videos in this playlist useful and informative. As I said earlier, it will take 3-4 more videos to finish the discussion on objects, and then we will move on to functions and classes. So please subscribe to the channel and like the video. There are two reasons why I asked for this. One is that if you subscribe and like the video, then the reach of the video increases and more people benefit from the video. So sharing is a good thing. So subscribe to the channel and like the video. The second thing is because when I see the more number of views or more subscribers incoming, then it motivates me to make more such videos. So once again, thanks a lot for watching. Happy programming. I'll see you in the next video.